And finally, before we get to the presentation of the award, it's been one of the traditions of this evening to hear from someone outside of journalism who has had some professional engagement with the honoree. And we're really fortunate tonight to have Ambassador Robert Ford with us. Many of you will know about his career, particularly his intellectually independent and important service as U.S. Ambassador to Syria from 2011 to 2014. But before that, he was also Deputy U.S. Ambassador to Iraq from 2008 to 2010, and he served also as U.S. Ambassador to Algeria between 2006 and 2008, and he's currently a Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute in Washington. So please welcome Ambassador Ford.
I'm so delighted to be here tonight and to be with Alissa and James. Alissa, congratulations on a richly deserved award. I first met Alissa Labor Day weekend, 2003, in Najaf, in southern Iraq, in a sense, the center of Iraqi Shia politics and Iraqi Shia religious teaching. And it was clear to me then, and I was fairly new, but Alissa was asking very penetrating questions, which frankly, I couldn't answer. And that sort of continued for the next 5 years that I knew her. And she would come to the embassy for briefings, or we would have private interviews. Two things really came across to me working with Alissa. Number one, as Susan mentioned, the empathy. It was very clear to me that Alissa didn't look at Iraqis just as foreigners in a war, but as real people. Second, Alissa's incredibly smart and insightful. For example, in her writing about the people of Baghdad, and in particular in the majority Shia neighborhoods, she knew people from shopkeepers and students to pilgrims marching in religious processions, to clerics, to ministers and prime ministers. The array, the breadth of contacts was simply stunning. And frankly, no diplomat that I ever met from any country's embassy could match that. I really enjoyed the time where Alissa and I could compare notes and try to figure out what was happening in the Iraq War. And Alissa, I always wanted you to write a book about the Iraqi Shia because no one knows them better than you do. And I haven't nagged you about it for the last 4 years because I haven't seen you for the last 4 years. But Alissa, you still have to write the book. My wife, Allison, who's also spent 25 years in the Middle East, saw Alissa getting ready to go out once, putting on an abaya. And Allison, who's tried to put on an abaya a few times herself, said Alissa was the only Western woman she ever saw who could put on an abaya and actually look like a local. Of course, the blue eyes are a giveaway. But even that is important. Alissa, I hope you won't mind if I will just relate the brief story that in 2005, in the midst of the worst part of the fighting in Iraq, in Western Iraq, I'm sure many of you remember names, cities like Ramadi and Fallujah. Alissa was not embedded with the United States military, which would have been a far safer thing to do, but used to go out to these towns with an Iraqi driver and would put on her abaya and be in the back seat. And on one occasion, she told me she was actually stopped at an Al-Qaeda checkpoint. Thank heavens she had her abaya on, and she was in the back seat while her Iraqi driver told the Al-Qaeda gunman, "That's my wife, she's pregnant, she's sick, I'm taking her back to Baghdad." And the Al-Qaeda gunman waved her through. When Alissa told me that story, I said, perhaps it's time to sort of change the focus a little bit. She insisted on continuing to report the war in the way that she did better than anybody else, up close, talking to people, not just generals, not just soldiers, but the Iraqis. I never saw anyone who could do it better than her. Alissa, congratulations.